Welcome back to Yellowhammer. I'm Connor, and today you can probably very clearly tell that I'm not in my 2013 302. I'm in a GT350, and I could not be happier to be bringing you a very technical review comparing them both. Alright, beginning off here, you don't need any intro of the car. A lot of people already know about them anyway. I'm not going to be talking in depth about a GT350 alone today. Today, we are going to be comparing it to my 2013 302 and why you might want to pick one over the other. Now, beginning off with the body, clearly, you're talking about a 11 to 14, technically 05 to 14 for my body, and you're talking 15 to current, well, 2022 anyway, for the 550 platform. One thing quite a bit different about the 350, you do have a wider fender and I think wider quarter panel. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not a 350 guru. No doubt wider than a regular GT though. Now, moving on to the wheel and tire combo, you have on the 350 front 19 by 10.5 wrapped in 295/35, and on the rear of the 350 are 19 by 11 wrapped in 305/35. Definitely pretty meaty. In the little amount of time that I've drove it, I mean, you feel, and granted I have been in a regular GT 550 before, but to be in a car of that caliber and trying to compare it to mine, you can't really, you can, but you can't. To be fair, they're not knocking either one of them, but they're definitely in their own little league of type of car. You can't really not know that you're not looking at a 350. Now, the 302, other than the big hockey or like quarter panel to fender down and then back to quarter panel, whatever that had been called, for the 2012 and 2013 302, clearly that will kind of give it away. But other than that, the 302 don't really have anything different body compared to, you know, regular GT. And not taking anything away from my 302, I love it, but you definitely have a lot more promenade and pomp, or whatever the word had been. Alright, now that we got the body out of the way, we're going to move on to a little bit of mechanical talk, and by that we're going to talk about the braking. Now, clearly, nothing new here. Every 550, 15 and up will be independent rear. What you might not know, the back rotor of a 350 will be technically bigger than the front rotor of a 302, coming in at 14.9 inch diameter for that rotor. Now, moving on up to the front of the car, you do have a 15.5 inch front rotor with the big monoblock Brembo caliper. Now, clearly, if you haven't been following along, you know that I did a big brake kit kind of on my own for my 302 that did help out quite a bit, and it took that rotor diameter up to a 15 inch even diameter rotor. Now, moving on to the good part, being the drivetrain of the 350, and we're going to compare that to a 302. But we all know the man, the myth, the legend, Carroll died in 2012, the 2013 GT500 being the final car that he had any direct involvement or opinion in. The cool thing about the Roadrunner motor and the Voodoo motor both, they were only offered in the 302 and the 350 in that order. They were never offered in any other car. Now, the 302 and the 350 motor are a lot different, but a lot alike. And what I mean by that being the material of metal of component being put into both of them, and the 302 being 11 to 1 and the 350 being 12 to 1. Furthermore, if you were not aware, the 350 had been offered in a 350R, and that included quite a bit. I'll have that up here. And the 302 had been offered in a 501A pack, giving you the Laguna. That offered a lot more alike of a car than what you might think. Both of them will definitely carry their value a lot longer than your regular 302 or GT350. But moving on, now that we've talked about the motor, clearly, and between the Mach 1, the new Mach 1, and the 350, you do have the Tremec in it. But clearly, if you didn't already know, you do have the MT82 with the 2011 through 2014 GT or 302, other than if you got a 500. But overall, I've really enjoyed driving that. The factory, I don't even know if I were to buy one that I would even put an NGW in it. Like, I think they really knocked it out of the park with everything they did with that one. I don't feel like the gate feeling felt really tight. Going into any gear felt really tight, no problem. But let me talk about the independent rear a little bit. Now, if you got a 2013 or 2012 302, you couldn't pick a whole lot from what you wanted to have. Talking about like option, the current car here, you've got a 8.8 identical to the 302, but an independent diff here, and identical final drive. I thought it'd been kind of cool that they carried that over. The 8.8 will be a very good diff for you, depending, well, really, even if you get up in a higher power level, it will be very good. The only thing you have to worry about will be the half shaft. If I were going to buy a 350, it would probably be identical to the one right here in front of you. And why I'm telling you that, I love any 550 Recaro, but the 350 Recaro bucket in particular are beautiful. They are very well done. One thing that I picked up on very quickly, they like put a carbon fiber pattern in the kind of cloth part in between the Alcantara on the bucket. And I really love it. You know, clearly you've got 350 up here, very beautiful. They hug you very well. Kind of identical to a 302 Recaro, and right down here comparatively to the 302 Recaro, they are definitely a lot higher and more at an incline to completely hold you in. You know, you could definitely go with the 5-point here, identical to the 11 or 13 302 Recaro. What they got them cut out for, you can do a 5-point with them. And then you get to the 550 gauge. Now, the car you're looking at right now will be the Tech Pack. You don't have the tiny little like 4.5 or 5-inch radio. You got the big one. I can't think of what number the infotainment had been, but either way, you got the really good audio, and I have had them turned up to like 20, and I think any more and it would probably blow your eardrum out. Granted, I could live without that either way if I got my Recaro. Right now that we're in the car, you can kind of get a feel for what it would feel like to drive one with the POV. I've got the GoPro on my head, and we're going to be driving, talking about everything while I've got the other GoPro on the back. Right there. Now here, identical to the 13302, you have gauge mode, and a lot of it will be a carryover from a 2013 302. You do have two right here, one being oil pressure and the other one being oil temp. But now we're gonna go for a drive again with the back camera on. The owner put a aftermarket ball on here. I do like the factory ball. I think maybe better, but it'll all come down to your own opinion on the matter. But overall, Tremec will drive great. I don't feel it. I don't have the fear that I might one day break it, particularly not at a even bolt-on E85 level 350. I don't think that you would ever have any problem out of that. Maybe not even with a light power adder if you're not really beating on it. I don't think it would hold up. But definitely a big improvement over the MT82 without any doubt. The only thing that I have had to kind of mind with driving a 350 will be the fact that you are in a lot lower car, and you do have to be mindful of that on a bump. That will be why I'm driving through the mall parking lot right now, due to the fact that I know that I can't get out everywhere without dragging the entire front bumper. You could get in a lot of trouble with the 350 due to the long gearing and, you know, the long RPM band for power. Yeah, you can I would hate to know what driving one with any form of blower or twin turbo car would feel like in one of them. Now right there, I am kind of new to the downshifting part of it. You have to kind of not really floor it, but I think about half throttle to get up to RPM to where you want to be to go down a gear. Definitely different. But going back to that, talking about the revving and everything, you do have a different throttle kind of input for the 350 compared to a 2013 302, and even with the light and flywheel and everything that I've done to mine, I do think that my 302 might rev a little quicker, or maybe even like really identical. Yeah, I'm gonna go with identical. I'm not gonna knock the 350 that bad. But I think a factory to factory 302 to 350 might be a little bit different revving, like compared to throttle and everything. But with mine having a lighter flywheel and everything now, I do think that they're about on par, if not identical, for revving and, you know, getting it to RPM and whatnot. The thing I will claim that I really like about it, and a lot of people may not, will be that I love feeling the road, like meaning I like feeling the input, I like feeling any kind of dip in the road, I like feeling the bank of the road. You know, I don't want to feel like I'm driving on air, not being able to feel any input of the car on the road. And, you know, clearly with the 13302 being, you know, kind of old tech, not having Magna Ride, you can definitely feel that about it. What I'm about to tell you all will probably either make a whole lot of people mad, or a whole lot of people will agree with me depending on what car you've drove. But when I had been looking for another car in like late 2018, early 2019, I never really wanted a 2013 302. And I'll elaborate on that in a minute, but I either wanted a 1314 500 or the current car that I'm in, and I don't even really know what got me into either one of them, other than the fact that they were either A, powerful for the 500, or a very heavy duty track car, being the one we're in. And, you know, everything kind of worked out to where, out to where I'd already liked the 11214 body. I don't think they've ever made or ever will make a better body than what they did. I have no idea what car I have in front of me. But I don't think they'll ever make a better looking body than what they did with the 11214, in particular the 13 and 14 model year. But I definitely like that body. You know, I think they looked really good, lowered a little bit, and you know, that had been why I wanted a 1314 500. You know, clearly that had been the year with the 5.8 Trinity, and they were a mean car. I can't help not doing that with the 350, like the flat plane crank note. Ooh, I couldn't even convey my mental hype for being able to drive the car and review it. Like, I have been incredibly giddy about it all week. But again, going back to the 302, you know, I didn't really think a whole lot about them at the time, probably like a whole lot of people do. I don't think a lot of people really think of a 302, you know, really being anything different. You know, with the better built motor, the Roadrunner, you got forged internal, you know, very good head on it. Intake, all that had been, you know, kind of groundbreaking. And, you know, even today people are getting, you know, 1K to, you know, anywhere below that on a factory motor, you know, with the oil pump gear. But, you know, granted, the motor would definitely be really good, no complaint there. I think the pitfall that car had been that they didn't put a Tremec in it. You can't really, to be fair, you can't really talk up a track car and have MT82 in it, in my opinion. You can argue with me on that if you want to, but, and I'm not even really talking bad about it. I mean, you can build one to be good, but the problem being, if you ever look at how they're made, where a bell housing would be on, like, you know, a Tremec, they are molded into the entire thing on an MT82. And if you blow, you know, any kind of part between the flywheel, the clutch, or anything, and that were to go through that, you know, you either have to try and weld and repair the entire thing or buy a new one. And I really don't think you want to be doing that on the track, or, you know, I mean, really at any given time, period. Never really wanted a 2013 302, but I am very glad to have had the opportunity to own one and drive one. I definitely would have both, you know, if money were no problem. I love that. You have plenty of power relatively all through the RPM band with a 5.2, but, you know, either way. Going back to a 302 though, I did really fall in love with that car. I mean, I literally did everything that you could think of with it other than drifting. And, you know, for being a factory handling car, you know, I never did anything to the handling. It did a lot more than what I thought it would, and I'm very happy with that. I do think going to a lighter wheel, the RTR, and a better tire than what they had on there definitely helped. Took a little bit of rotating weight off and helped with a little bit more grab. But, you know, overall, I'm very happy with that car and what I've done with it. You know, not really quick in any one thing, you know, drag or track or whatever, but a very good overall car. And it'll kind of depend on what you want to do. Like, if you like everything, then you might want to pick a, you know, 2012 or 2013 302. If you're only for kind of road tripping or track or, you know, whatever, then you might want to pick a 350. You know, kind of depending on what you want to do with the car and what you want to do. Yeah, overall, I really think it'll come down to what you want to do for what car that you're going to pick, and you kind of have to go from there. I really do think that if you were to put maybe 10 to 12, maybe even 10 to 15 grand into the 302, that it would probably keep up on track with a competent driver. It would probably keep up on track with the 350, but the way I feel about it too, at the end of the day, a 302 will never be a 350, and a 350 will never be a 302. I can't really give any more of a detailed argument comparatively for either one of them two, but I will tell you right now that I would be happy to own both of them. You know, again, if If money were no problem, I would own both in a heartbeat and not think anything about it. Going back to driving here, they drive comparatively, in my opinion, although the way that you feel when you're driving a 350 will be more planted, clearly, with the independent rear. The live rear on a 2013 302 will make it feel kind of, to put it lightly, more like an old car in the way that they kind of behave during you know, either hard braking, either they dive, or during a hard throttle pull, they kind of lift up. And with a MagneRide on here, the way they've got them tuned in, I could brake really hard right now and the car would barely tilt down. They are incredibly well made, and let me, yeah, that'll be good. Get me wrong, we got up to, well, I'm not gonna let that out there. We got up pretty high and you know, definitely had been a full throttle foot input, but due to how the car made, you don't really feel the kind of neck braking pull forward, the lateral G that you would kind of feel in a 302. And again, it will really come down to kind of what you want. I don't even know if you all could hear me or not through the camera with that, but it will really come down and depend upon what kind of feeling that you're looking for in the car, what you're wanting out of that car. But, you know, again, talking about modifying a 302 to keep up with the 350, I do think it can be done with a competent driver and the right mod to the car. You know, a good track tire, a good lightweight wheel, better handling coilover, maybe even a watt link for the rear, depending on what you like. I do think between, and I'll talk about that too, between the weight to power on a 302, I think anybody would really be happy with that, and I think that had been why that platform worked well. You're looking at about a 3,700 pound, give or take, and below full weight car right there. I mean, you can take that lower clearly depending on what you want to do, but that kind of weight with 450 at the crank, and you know, not only will that help you take off, but that'll help braking too. And overall, you know, a lighter weight car will make a better track car at the end of the day. And you got a 350 here, and I think they're more toward 38 or maybe even 39, maybe toward 4. I'll have that on here for you. But they are, you know, a little bit heavier, but again, you got a little bit more power with 5.2. You got 525 with the crank, and you know, overall, I do think that made for a good combo. It made for a very iconic combo anyway, if nothing more. Like right here, you go down another, there we go. Like right here, you don't feel that like dive and that kind of pull to the front during hard braking with the 350 due to the MagneRide. Now with my car, where I did the big brake from a 550 performance pack, you definitely, if I were to brake all the way hard, like full foot input into the brake, I definitely think that would probably make you go forward a good bit, if not more. But with the 350, again, the way they've got it laid out, I mean, they have really taken their time to figure out what to do and what not to do with the car. And granted, you know, Carroll never had any involvement other than probably an early term idea before he died with the 350. You know, I do think that the team between Ford and them both did their due work to figure out, you know, what can we do to improve with the car, and you know, what do we need to revive the 350 nameplate. I do think they hit it without any doubt. I couldn't be happier with driving the car, how it would feel. you know, unfortunately, we got pretty cold weather here, 45 out, and where I'm at currently, I don't really have the availability of any kind of good back road, or I really would like to kind of get a feeling for the car. And, you know, again, I can't talk highly enough of my 302. I did, you know, again, I can't really talk highly enough of my 302 for being a nearly 10-year-old car now, and, you know, being fun to drive, you know, holding the relevant kind of handling, you know, for a newer car. And, you know, the cool factor, the good motor, you know, the nameplate, you know, the 302 have been around for a very long time. Like the 350, you know, you definitely have a lot of really iconic background there, and, you know, either one I think would make anybody happy, but it'll come down to what you want at the end of the day. I would like to hear your opinion on it and I tried to be fair about everything between driving a 350 and owning a 302. I do think that I tried to be fair about everything, but if you agree with it or don't, let me know. If you have drove both, or if you lean more toward one way than the other. And I'll talk to you all in another video.